The old space station hung silently in the darkness of space. Its metal walls, once shiny and new, now looked worn and dull. For thousands of years, it had floated here, forgotten by the busy worlds of the Galactic Council. Zara and Lyra, two young alien explorers, carefully steered their small ship towards the station. Their antennae twitched with excitement as they got closer. "Look at how big it is," Zara said, her big eyes wide with wonder. She was small and blue, with 4 arms that moved quickly as she worked the controls. Lyra nodded, her long neck bending as she looked out the window. "I've never seen anything like it," she said softly. Lyra was tall and thin, with green skin that shimmered in the starlight. As their ship touched the side of the station, both girls felt a shiver of excitement. They had always dreamed of finding something amazing out here in the empty parts of space. Maybe today was the day. Carefully, they put on their spacesuits and floated out of their ship. The station's airlock was old, but it still worked. With a hiss, it opened, letting them inside. "It's so dark," Zara whispered, turning on her light. The beam cut through the dusty air, showing long hallways and strange machines. Lyra pulled out a small computer. "According to the old maps, there should be a control room nearby," she said. "Maybe we can turn on the power from there." They floated slowly through the station, looking at everything with curious eyes. Old signs and strange writing covered the walls. Bits of paper and broken tools floated in the air. "I wonder who built this place," Zara said, touching a wall gently. "And why did they leave it all alone out here?" Lyra shrugged. "The Galactic Council records don't say much, just that it's been here for a very long time." Soon, they found the control room. It was a big space filled with screens and buttons. Lyra went to work, her long fingers moving quickly over the controls. "I think I can get the power working," she said after a while. "But there's something strange here. Look at this." Zara floated over to see. On one of the screens, a map of the station appeared. But there was an extra part that wasn't on their old maps. "A hidden section?" Zara asked, her antenna standing straight up in surprise. Lyra nodded. "It looks like it. And it's using a lot of power, even though the rest of the station is shut down." They looked at each other, both thinking the same thing. What could be in there? What was so important that it needed power for all these years? "We have to check it out," Zara said, already moving towards the door. It took them a while to find the entrance to the hidden section. It was behind a big metal door that looked like part of the wall. But when Lyra pressed the right buttons on her computer, the door slowly opened with a loud creak. Cold air rushed out, making them shiver. They turned on their lights and looked inside. "Oh my stars," Zara whispered. The room was huge, much bigger than they expected, and it was filled with rows and rows of strange metal pods. Each pod was covered in frost, and a small light blinked on its side. "What are they?" Lyra asked, moving closer to one of the pods. She wiped away some of the frost and gasped. "Zara, there's something inside." Zara hurried over and looked. Through the small window on the pod, they could see a face. It was unlike any alien they had ever seen before. "Is it alive?" Zara asked, her voice shaking a little. Lyra checked her computer. "According to these readings, yes, it's alive, but sleeping, in some kind of deep freeze." They looked around the room, realizing there were hundreds of pods, maybe even thousands, and in each one, a strange, sleeping alien. "Lyra," Zara said slowly, I think we might have just found the lost humans." Lyra's eyes went wide. "But that's impossible. The humans were destroyed by the Galactic Council 800,000 years ago. Everyone knows that." Zara shook her head. Everyone thought they knew that. But look around. What else could these be? As they floated there, surrounded by the sleeping pods, both girls felt a mix of excitement and fear. They had just made the biggest discovery in the galaxy. But what would happen when these long-lost humans woke up? And what would the Galactic Council do when they found out? The adventure was just beginning. Zara and Lyra floated in silence, staring at the rows of sleeping humans. The only sound was the soft beeping of the cryopods and their own quick breathing. "We need to tell someone about this," Lyra said finally, her voice shaking a little. Zara shook her head. "No, not yet. We don't know the whole story. Remember what happened to the humans?" Lyra nodded slowly. Every child in the galaxy learned about the terrible war with the humans. It was an old, sad story. "Maybe we should look for more information here," Zara suggested. "There might be some records or logs." They moved carefully through the room, looking at the control panels near the cryopods. Lyra found an old computer and started working on it. "I think I can access some old files," she said after a while. "But they're very old and damaged." Suddenly, a hologram appeared in the middle of the room. It showed an old human man with white hair and a tired face. "This is Admiral James Chen of the Earth Defense Force," the hologram said. "If you are seeing this, it means our plan worked. Some of us survived." Zara and Lyra watched, amazed, as the hologram told a story very different from what they had learned in school. The human admiral spoke of a peaceful Earth, reaching out to the stars. They had made contact with the Galactic Council and were excited to join. But some on the council were afraid of humans. They saw how quickly humans learned and adapted. They worried that humans might become too powerful. "They attacked us without warning," the hologram said sadly. "Billions died in the first day. We tried to fight back, but we were outnumbered." Zara and Lyra looked at each other, shocked. This wasn't the story they knew. They had always been told that humans were dangerous and had attacked first. The hologram continued, explaining their desperate plan. The last humans would hide in secret bases throughout the galaxy, sleeping in cryopods. They would wait until it was safe to wake up. "We hope that one day the truth will be known," Admiral Chen said. "We are not the monsters they say we are. We only wanted peace." A hologram flickered and died. Zara and Lyra sat in stunned silence. "Could it be true?" Lyra whispered. "Did the council really lie about everything?" Zara's antenna drooped. "I don't know, but if it is true, we have to help them." They spent the next few hours exploring the base, finding more records and logs. Everything they found supported the human story. They saw videos of beautiful Earth cities being destroyed. They read about brave human scientists working to save as many people as they could. "Look at this," Lyra said, pointing to a screen. "There are other bases like this one, hidden all over the galaxy." Zara nodded. The humans were smart. They knew they couldn't win the war, so they found a way to survive. As they worked, they talked about what to do next. They knew this discovery could change everything. The Galactic Council might not want the truth to come out. It could be dangerous. "We can't just leave them here," Zara said, looking at the sleeping humans. "They've been waiting for so long." Lyra agreed, "But we need to be careful. If we wake them up, the council might find out. We need a plan." They decided to wake up just a few humans first. They would talk to them, learn more about what happened. Then they could figure out how to help all the others. Carefully, they chose 3 pods. One had the name Dr. Sarah Lee on it. Another said Captain Michael Okoi. The third was marked Engineer Yuki Tanaka. "Are you ready?" Zara asked, her hand hovering over the controls. Lyra took a deep breath. "Ready. Let's make history." Together, they pressed the buttons. The pods hissed and started to open. Slowly, the first humans in 800,000 years began to wake up. Zara and Lyra watched, excited and a little scared. They didn't know what would happen next, but they knew nothing would ever be the same again. The humans were back, and the galaxy was about to change forever. The cryopods hissed and creaked as they slowly opened. Zara and Lyra watched with wide eyes, their hearts beating fast. This was a moment that would change history. Dr. Sarah Lee was the first to open her eyes. She blinked slowly, looking confused. When she saw Zara and Lyra, she gasped and tried to sit up. "It's okay," Zara said quickly, holding up her hands to show she meant no harm. "You're safe. We're friends." Sarah looked around, her eyes getting wider as she saw where she was. "It worked," she whispered. "We actually did it." Next to her, Captain Michael Okoye was waking up. He was tall and strong, with dark skin and kind eyes. He sat up faster than Sarah, looking ready to protect her if needed. "Who are you?" he asked Zara and Lyra, his voice rough from long sleep. "Where are we?" Before they could answer, the third pod opened. Engineer Yuki Tanaka sat up, pushing her long black hair out of her face. She looked at the aliens, then at her fellow humans, then back at the aliens. "Well," she said with a small smile, "I guess the welcome party isn't quite what we expected." Zara and Lyra introduced themselves and explained how they had found the hidden base. The humans listened carefully, asking questions and looking more amazed with each answer. 800,000 years, Sarah said, shaking her head. "It's hard to believe." Michael stood up, stretching his long legs. "What about the Galactic Council? Are they still in power?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, but things have changed a lot. The Council isn't as strong as it used to be. Many worlds have left it." Yuki was looking at the other cryopods. "How many of us made it?" she asked softly. "In this base, there are 1,247 pods," Zara said. "And we found records of other bases across the galaxy." The humans looked at each other, hope and sadness in their eyes. So few had survived, but it was more than they had dared to hope for. Sarah turned to the aliens. "Why did you wake us up? Aren't you afraid of what the Council might do?" Zara's antenna twitched nervously. We found out that the story we were taught about humans wasn't true. We want to help make things right." The humans were quiet for a moment, taking in this surprising news. "So, the galaxy doesn't think we're monsters anymore?" Yuki asked. Lyra shook her head. "Most people don't think about humans at all. You're just an old story to them." Michael laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Well, I guess that's better than being hated." They spent the next few hours talking, sharing stories and information. The humans told Zara and Lyra about Earth, about their cultures and history. In return, the aliens explained how the galaxy had changed while they slept. As they talked, Zara noticed something interesting. The humans didn't seem angry about what had happened to them. They were sad, yes, but also curious, and even excited about the new galaxy they had woken up to. "You're not what I expected," Zara said to Sarah. Sarah smiled. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Maybe for you to be angry, to want revenge." Sarah shook her head. "We've slept for so long. The people who hurt us are long gone. Being angry won't bring back what we lost. We have to look forward now." Michael nodded. "Our job is to build a new future, not fight old battles." Yuki grinned. "Besides, we humans are pretty good at adapting. It's what we do best." As the day went on, they started to make plans. They couldn't wake everyone up at once. It would be too dangerous and too difficult to hide. Instead, they would wake small groups, slowly building a network of awakened humans. "We need to find the other bases," Michael said. "Unite our people." Sarah agreed. "And we need to learn more about the current galaxy. Make allies, build our strength." Yuki was already working on the base's old computers. "I can update our systems, maybe even tap into the galactic network without being noticed." Zara and Lyra watched in amazement as the humans quickly organized themselves, making plans and solving problems. They could see why the old council had been afraid of them, but they could also see that this fear had been wrong. These humans weren't monsters or conquerors. They were survivors, dreamers, and builders. And with their help, the galaxy might become a better place for everyone. As the first day of their new life came to an end, hope filled the old space station. The long sleep was over. Humanity was awake and ready to take on the stars once more. Days passed quickly as Zara, Lyra, and the awakened humans worked together. The old space station buzzed with activity, its halls no longer silent and empty. Dr. Sarah Lee had set up a small lab, studying the effects of long-term cryo sleep on the human body. Captain Michael Okoye organized security and explored the station's defenses. Engineer Yuki Tanaka worked tirelessly on the computers, trying to connect safely to the Galactic network. Zara and Lyra split their time between helping the humans and making short trips back to their home worlds. They didn't want anyone to get suspicious about their long absence. "We need to wake up more people," Michael said during one of their meetings. "We're too few right now." Sarah nodded. "I agree, but we need to be careful. If we wake too many at once, we might not have enough resources." Yuki looked up from her computer. "I think I've found a way to send secure messages to the other bases. We can coordinate with them." Zara's antenna twitched with excitement. "That's great news. But how will you contact them without the Galactic Council noticing?" Yuki grinned. "I'm using old Earth frequencies that no one uses anymore. It's slow, but it's safe." As they talked, Lyra was quiet, lost in thought. Finally, she spoke up. "I think we need to do more than just wake people up. We need allies in the current galaxy." Everyone turned to look at her. "What do you mean?" Michael asked. "The Galactic Council isn't as strong as it used to be," Lyra explained. "Many worlds are unhappy with them. If we could find these worlds, make friends with them, we could build a network of allies," Sarah finished, her eyes shining. "Lyra, that's brilliant." Michael looked concerned. "It's risky. If the wrong person finds out about us." "Everything we do is risky," Yuki said. "But Lyra's right. We can't hide forever. We need friends out there." They spent hours discussing the idea. In the end, they agreed to try. Zara and Lyra would use their knowledge of the current galaxy to make a list of potential allies. The humans would prepare messages explaining their situation. As they worked, Zara noticed something changing. At first, she and Lyra had felt like outsiders, helping the humans, but not really part of their group. Now, it felt different. The humans asked for their opinions, trusted their judgment. They were becoming a team. One day, as they were eating lunch together, the humans still amazed by alien food, Sarah turned to the two alien girls. "You know," she said, "you're taking a huge risk helping us." "Why?" Zara and Lyra looked at each other. "At first, it was because we thought it was the right thing to do," Zara said. "But now," Lyra added, "now it's because you're our friends. We want to help our friends." The humans smiled, touched by their words. "Well," Michael said, raising his cup, "here's to friendship across the stars." They all raised their cups, the gesture bridging 800,000 years and countless light years. As weeks passed, their plans started to take shape. They woke up small groups of humans, carefully chosen for their skills and knowledge. Each new awakening brought challenges, but also new ideas and energy. Yuki's communication system worked better than they had hoped. They made contact with 3 other hidden bases, each with hundreds of sleeping humans. Slowly, carefully, a network began to form. Zara and Lyra made careful inquiries on their home worlds, looking for signs of planets or groups unhappy with the Galactic Council. They found more than they expected. The Council's power had been fading for centuries, and many were ready for change. But as their alliance grew stronger, so did the risks. One day, Yuki detected unusual activity in the Galactic network. "Someone's looking for us," she said, her face worried. "They don't know exactly what they're looking for, but they know something's out there." The room grew quiet. They had known this day might come, but it was still scary. "What do we do?" Lyra asked, looking at the humans. Sarah stood up, her face determined. "We do what humans have always done. We face the challenge head-on." Michael nodded. "We've hidden long enough. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity is back. Yuki grinned, cracking her knuckles. And this time, we've got some amazing alien friends to help us. Zara and Lyra felt a mix of fear and excitement. The real challenge was just beginning. But as they looked around at their human friends, they knew one thing for sure. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The old space station was quiet. Most of the awakened humans were asleep, but in a small room, 5 figures huddled around a glowing screen. Zara, Lyra, Sarah, Michael, and Yuki were planning their most dangerous mission yet. They had to find proof of the Galactic Council's lies about humanity's past. Our best chance is the Central Archives on Nexus Prime, Lyra said, pointing to a spot on the star map. If there's evidence, it'll be there. Michael frowned. Nexus Prime is the most heavily guarded planet in the galaxy. How do we get in? Yuki grinned, her eyes sparkling with excitement. I have an idea about that, but you're not going to like it. She explained her plan. It was risky and complicated, but it might work. They would use Zora and Lyra's alien identities to get onto the planet. Then, they'd use some old human technology to sneak into the archives. It's crazy, Sarah said when Yuki finished, but it might be crazy enough to work. They spent the next week preparing. Yuki built small devices that could hack into Nexus Prime's security systems. Sarah created disguises that would help Michael and Yuki look like Zara and Lyra's species. Finally, the day came. As their small ship approached Nexus Prime, everyone was nervous. Remember, Michael said, if anything goes wrong, Zara and Lyra get out immediately. We can't risk them being caught. The alien girls started to protest, but Sarah cut them off. He's right. You two have families here. We don't. Promise us you'll run if things get bad. Reluctantly, Zara and Lyra promised. But they both secretly decided they wouldn't leave their friends behind, no matter what. Getting onto the planet was easier than they expected. Zara and Lyra's identities checked out, and the guards didn't look too closely at their assistants Michael and Yuki. Once on the surface, they split up. Zara and Michael headed for the Central Archives, while Lyra and Yuki went to set up their hacking devices around the city. Sarah stayed on the ship, coordinating everything and ready to fly in for a quick rescue if needed. At the archives, Zara and Michael faced their first real challenge. The building was huge, with hundreds of floors and tight security. How do we find what we need in all this? Zara whispered, looking around the vast entrance hall. Michael smiled. We do what humans do best. We adapt. He pulled out a small device Yuki had made. It could sense the age of documents. They would look for the oldest records, the ones from the time of the Human Council War. Meanwhile, Lyra and Yuki were racing against time. They had to plant their hacking devices without being spotted by the many security drones patrolling the city. Over there, Lyra hissed, pointing to a tall communication tower. That's the last one. Yuki nodded and started climbing. Just as she reached the top, a security drone appeared around the corner. Lyra's heart stopped. If the drone saw Yuki, everything would be ruined. But then she had an idea. She started jumping and waving her arms, pretending to be a lost tourist. The drone turned towards her, distracted. Yuki quickly planted the device and climbed down the other side of the tower. Back in the archives, Zara and Michael had found something. Hidden deep in the oldest section, they discovered files that hadn't been opened in centuries. This is it, Michael said, his voice shaking with excitement. Records from the war. And look, they're different from the official story. Zara quickly began copying the files. But just as they finished, alarms started blaring throughout the building. We've been detected. Sarah's voice crackled over their hidden communicators. Get out now. Zara and Michael ran, dodging security guards and jumping over barriers. They met Lyra and Yuki outside, all four sprinting towards their hidden ship. Laser blasts sizzled past them as they ran up the ship's ramp. Sarah was already firing up the engines. Go, 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 Michael yelled as the ramp closed behind them. The ship shot into the sky, twisting and turning to avoid the planet's defenses. For a few terrifying minutes, it seemed like they might not make it. Then they were in open space, shooting towards the safety of light speed. In the ship's main room, the five friends looked at each other. They were breathing hard, their hearts racing. But they were alive, and they had done it. Did we get it? Sarah asked. Did we find the proof? Zara held up the data chip, her hands still shaking a little. We got it. Now the whole galaxy will know the truth. As the stars streaked by outside, the team began to laugh. It was a laugh of relief, of joy, and of hope for the future. Their mission was far from over, but they had taken the first big step. Humanity's true story would finally be told. The small ship raced through space, carrying its precious cargo of stolen truth. Inside, Zara, Lyra, Sarah, Michael, and Yuki huddled around a computer screen, their faces a mix of excitement and worry. Okay, Yuki, Michael said, his voice tense. Show us what we risked our lives for. Yuki nodded and inserted the data chip. The screen lit up with hundreds of old files and videos. As they watched, the true story of humanity's past unfolded before their eyes. They saw peaceful human colonies reaching out to the stars with hope and friendship. They saw the fear and jealousy of some council members as humans quickly learned and adapted to new technologies. And they saw the terrible decision to destroy Earth and blame it on humanity. I can't believe it, Lyra whispered, her long neck drooping with sadness. How could they do this? Sarah put a comforting hand on Lyra's shoulder. Fear makes people do terrible things, but now we have a chance to make it right. As they dug deeper into the files, they found something unexpected. Not all council members had agreed with the attack on Earth. There had been a secret group working to protect humanity. Look at this, Zora exclaimed, her antenna twitching with excitement. There are names here, council members who tried to save humans. Michael leaned in, his eyes wide. And some of these names, they're still on the council today, descendants of the original helpers. This discovery gave them new hope. They weren't alone in their fight for truth. There were potential allies even in the heart of the Galactic Council. We need to contact these council members, Yuki said. They might be able to help us reveal the truth safely. But as they made plans, a new problem arose. The ship's communication system picked up urgent messages from their hidden base. The Galactic Council was in uproar. Their mission to Nexus Prime hadn't gone unnoticed. They're searching for us, Sarah said, her face grim. And they're close to finding the other human bases too. The team fell silent, the weight of their situation heavy on their shoulders. They had the truth, but revealing it now might put thousands of sleeping humans in danger. What do we do? Lyra asked, looking around at her friends. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Michael stood up, his face determined. We do what we came here to do. We tell the truth. Yuki nodded. Michael's right. We can't hide anymore. It's time to wake everyone up and face this head-on. Zara and Lyra exchanged glances. We're with you, Zara said. Whatever happens, we're in this together. Sarah smiled, feeling a surge of pride for her team. All right then, let's make a plan. Over the next few hours, they worked tirelessly. Yuki set up a secure communication network, linking all the hidden human bases. Michael and Sarah prepared a message explaining the situation to the sleeping humans. Zara and Lyra used their knowledge of current galactic politics to identify potential allies. As they worked, they also prepared the evidence they had stolen. They organized it, made it easy to understand, and prepared it for transmission across the galaxy. We need to be ready for anything, Michael said as they finalized their plans. Once we reveal this, the Council might try to stop us. Sarah nodded. That's why we need to send the truth to as many worlds as possible, all at once. They can't stop it if it's everywhere. Finally, after what felt like days of preparation, they were ready. The ship hung in space, surrounded by the twinkling stars that had been humanity's home and prison for 800,000 years. "Is everyone ready?" Sarah asked, looking around at her team. Yuki gave a thumbs up from her spot at the communications array. Michael nodded, his hand hovering over the button that would wake up all the sleeping humans. Zara and Lyra stood side by side, ready to send messages to their homeworlds and potential allies. Sarah took a deep breath. "Okay then, let's change the galaxy." With trembling fingers, she pressed the broadcast button. In an instant, the truth about humanity's past shot across the stars, reaching thousands of worlds. At the same moment, Michael activated the wake-up sequence for all human bases. After 800,000 years of sleep, humanity was fully awakening. As alarms and messages started flooding their systems, the team looked at each other. There was fear in their eyes, but also determination and hope. The next few hours would determine the fate of humanity and perhaps the entire galaxy. But whatever came next, they would face it together. The time for hiding was over. Now, it was time for the truth to be heard. The galaxy exploded with chaos. As the truth about humanity's past spread across countless worlds, reactions varied wildly. Some planets erupted in angry protests against the Galactic Council. Others fell into shocked silence. A few tried to deny the evidence, calling it an elaborate hoax. On the small ship that had started it all, Zara, Lyra, Sarah, Michael, and Yuki worked tirelessly. They answered messages, coordinated with awakening human bases, and tried to keep up with the rapidly changing situation. "The Council is in complete disarray," Lyra reported, her long neck bent over a screen filled with news reports. "Half the members are denying everything, but some are actually admitting the truth." Michael nodded grimly. "And the human bases? Are they all awake?" Yuki gave a thumbs up. "All bases reported successful mass awakenings. We've got about 50,000 humans up and running now." Sarah let out a long breath. 50,000. Out of billions. But it's a start. Zora's antenna twitched with excitement. "And we've got allies. Look at this." She pointed to a flood of incoming messages. Planets and systems across the galaxy were declaring their support for humanity. Many were old enemies of the Council, eager to see its power broken. Others were younger races who had always doubted the stories about the dangerous humans. "We need to move fast," Michael said. "The Council is weak now, but they're still dangerous. We need to press our advantage." The next few days were a blur of activity. Human ships, hidden for millennia, emerged from secret bases. They were old but still powerful, a shock to a galaxy that had grown complacent. Zara and Lyra became ambassadors, using their knowledge of the current galaxy to help humanity navigate this new era. They arranged meetings, translated cultural differences, and helped smooth over misunderstandings. Sarah found herself leading a team of human and alien scientists, sharing long-lost human knowledge and marveling at 800,000 years of galactic advancement. Michael coordinated the human fleet, a task that became easier as more allies joined their cause. Ships from a dozen worlds now flew alongside the ancient human vessels. And Yuki, she dived into the galactic network, updating humanity's old technology and uncovering even more secrets the Council had tried to hide. A week after the truth was revealed, the turning point came. The Galactic Council, reeling from defections and protests, called for an emergency session. To everyone's shock, they invited human representatives to attend. "It's a trap," Michael said when the invitation arrived. "Maybe," Sarah agreed, "but it's also an opportunity we can't ignore." In the end, they decided to go. Their ship, now escorted by a fleet of allied vessels, approached the Council's majestic space station. As they docked, Zara turned to her human friends. "Whatever happens in there, I want you to know how proud I am to have been part of this." Lyra nodded, her eyes shining. "You've changed the galaxy for the better. Never doubt that." The humans smiled, touching in their different ways. Sarah's hand on Zara's shoulder, Michael's fist bumped to Lyra. Yuki's exuberant hug that somehow encompassed them all. Then, together, they stepped onto the station. The council chamber was packed. Representatives from hundreds of worlds watched as the small group entered. The humans' simple clothes stood out among the ornate robes of the council members. For a moment, there was silence. Then, to everyone's surprise, an old council member stood up. "On behalf of the Galactic Council," she said, her voice shaking, "I extend our deepest apologies to humanity." A murmur ran through the crowd. The old council member continued, "We cannot undo the wrongs of the past, but we can work towards a better future. If humanity is willing, we propose a new beginning." Sarah stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "Humanity accepts your apology. We've slept for 800,000 years. We've lost our home and most of our people, but we haven't lost our hope, our curiosity, or our desire for peace." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of aliens from across the galaxy. "We're ready to take our place among the stars. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as equals, as friends." The chamber erupted in cheers. As Zara watched, she felt a warmth in her heart. The galaxy was changing, growing into something new and wonderful. And it was all because two curious alien girls had found some sleeping humans in an old, forgotten space station. The future, she realized, was going to be amazing.